Welcome to Modern Conception, a new era of fertility decoded. I am Brittney Sobel, the founder of It Is Sloan.
And I'm co-founder Amanda Zurawski. And today we are joined by Selby Drummond. Selby joined Plum Alley Ventures, an early-stage venture company investing in medical breakthrough and frontier technology with a focus on finding gender-diverse founding teams in early 2025 as a senior strategic officer to grow the company's reach and impact. Prior to joining Plum Alley, Selby served as Bumble Inc.'s chief marketing officer and oversaw its social impact. Drummond is a founding member and continues to serve on the board of the 15% Pledge, an economic racial justice organization which partners with major retailers such as Sephora and Nordstrom to increase the diversity of business owners represented on their shelves and support small Black-owned businesses. She is a passionate advocate for gender equality and women's health and safety, including abortion access, equal funding for medical research, and pay equity. Selby holds a BA in English Literature and Art History from Columbia University and graduated from the Spence School in Manhattan. She is a lifelong New Yorker and lives in Soho with her husband and 2 young daughters.
Welcome, Selby.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here with 2 amazing women.
Well, thanks for joining us.
Yes. So we always like to begin asking coffee order. What is your coffee order?
Oh, my God. My coffee order is like as many oat flat whites as anyone can carry. I will take 4 in a tray. If I have full hands, I will ask the person next to me to carry some coffees. And then it's just like anything that's available.
Oh, I love a flat white. Do you do iced or hot?
I do both.
Same.
Sometimes I do an iced and a hot in the same day.
At the same time?
I'm just learning about all these like cortado, flat white, because I used to just drink lattes.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, it's really a confident person that's going to explore what all these other ones mean and actually ask, like, what is a cortado? What is a flat white?
Yeah.
And I decided I am brave. And so I asked those questions. And now I've learned that I like a flat white because it's between a full latte and a cortado. For anyone who has not been brave enough to ask.
I like
it's
them all.
like neither here nor there, but in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
And then you add oat milk, did you say?
It's oat milk already because it's a latte.
Got it.
So it's espresso, 2 shots of espresso or whatever. A cortado, they'll put like a bit of steamed milk in it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
A flat white, they'll like fill up halfway. And then the latte is the full cup.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So when I stress
it's a milk
about like
ratio, milk to coffee ratio.
exactly, which the nomenclature like gives you nothing.
Yeah.
But when you start to panic about like what is oat milk and should I be drinking it?
We were just talking about this morning.
So then you can go down. You can go from like a full cup of hot milk to a flat white, which is like a little less. So you can feel a little less guilty that like what is the glue in this cup?
See, I told you the
Full of
glue.
knowledge.
We have the guar gums, the oils, all the things to worry about.
I just switched from almond to oat, and now I got to go back to almond. I
You were
guess.
late. You were late to do that.
Well, by just I mean like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, one can't
That's all
keep up. I feel like we're here talking about the same thing, which is
Exactly.
the research is confusing, the science is confusing, and we're all sort of out there feeling our way around in the dark.
trying to figure it out for ourselves.
That is a great segue into why we wanted you to join us today, talking about vague research, not enough research in the area of mental health and pregnancy. So, Selby, I first was introduced to you very informally when I was researching frantically in the middle of the night. Sloan was about 2 years old, exhibiting some dysregulation, anxiety, hair pulling, all of these wonderful things. And as a parent, you try to put all of the pieces of the puzzle together, what's causing this. And my gestational carrier was on Zoloft throughout the pregnancy. So I started to research Zoloft and its effect on children. And I came across an article that you penned, I think in 2021, why I stayed on antidepressants during the pregnancy. I think that was the title, something like that. We'll link it. And I thought, this is so great to read something so human, because everything I had come across up until that point was research articles about animals being tested and like, seriously. And there's so little known about remaining on SSRIs during pregnancy. It's classified as a, category C, right? And so you just simply don't know. But when you hear from someone such as you, sharing their experience, it really helps to humanize it. So thank you for writing that article.
I can't believe you found that.
Yes.
I guess that goes to show how few people are writing that story, that my, little article came up when you were actually looking for medical guidance or like facts about what might have impacted your own child.
Yeah.
But I think it is so funny because I actually wrote that article 3 or 4 months after having my first. And my kind of mental health and medication journey did not stop there. And it's bizarre to me now because I would write a very different article today, but actually in some ways a much happier article. Because in my second pregnancy, I had a whole different set of information. I had a different, obviously, experience to compare it to. And I had doctors who were talking to me in different ways. And so I made very different choices, had a very different outcome. It's all anecdotal, so I can share all about that. But it's always interesting to me that I wrote an article about staying on antidepressants during my first pregnancy when I hadn't even been into what ended up being my postpartum depression after that pregnancy. And then subsequently me approaching a second pregnancy, getting through that, and then doing the aftermath of that pregnancy. So like there is a whole journey that happened after that.
Like can't wait to hear it because I've been waiting for a sequel.
The sequel, that's what I was going to say.
So this is great. But for those who have not read the article, take us back to you're trying to conceive, thinking about starting a family, you're on an SSRI. Like, what does this look like for you?
So I started taking SSRIs when I was in high school. I was clinically depressed. That was clear after trying a bunch of interventions. My family, my doctors, and I decided that I should try Zoloft. And it basically saved my life. I mean, I have no question. Living through the weeks where I was titrating up on the dosage, I just immediately, it was like putting on glasses and having bad vision. I just said, oh my God, this is what has been wrong. Of course, I'm going to have good days and bad days, but it's like I can see now. I don't have blurry vision. And I really had this experience of feeling like I had a medical problem that was corrected when I was properly medicated. And so that was a very cut and dry scientific experience of antidepressants. I was 15 at the time. So cut to 10 years later, I'm sort of recovered from my mental health issues in high school. And I know at some point I want to start a family. And I just by osmosis of sort of general knowledge decided I would start to taper down on my medication. I thought I want to get pregnant at some point. I'll do this really slowly, no rush. So I did, and I went down from kind of the max Zoloft dosage to the kind of minimum Zoloft dosage.
Under the guidance of your
my doctor was sure. Some people recover fully; they don't need to be on it for the rest of their lives. Some people do. We can just try and see. The stakes were low. I was in great care, and I didn't have a problem going down on the medication. And I assumed that was the responsible thing to do as I approached my childbearing years and wanting to start a family. And when I went to go get pregnant and I needed to do I needed fertility treatment and support to get pregnant ultimately. And I was in the care of great doctors and they all said, yeah, we don't really know, but best to just be conservative and not take anything or be on the lowest dose that makes sense. So there was a little bit of like, yes, we want the mom to be happy and well, but anywhere where we have a gray area or we don't know, we'll just be on the conservative side. I later learned they tell you the same for coffee. You think you're not supposed to drink coffee in pregnancy, and then you learn actually the only studies they've ever done are on what happens if you drink 10 cups of coffee or an animal is having that much caffeine or stimulation. And so they know that 10 cups of coffee a day is not healthy for you in your pregnancy. So they tell you, just don't drink coffee. We don't know exactly what the right number is. Best for you to not drink coffee. For someone such as myself, like that's really a challenge. That's a physical challenge to not have a stimulant, to not have coffee. And, it was only with the benefit of hindsight that I learned, okay, doctors will tell you, because there's no research, be conservative. Don't take the things that might help you live well because we don't really know. I stayed on my lowest dose, which was I felt comfortable with, my doctor felt comfortable with. We all felt like there's no reason that you need to get off of this, but I was on the lowest dose. It went fine, sort of. I had my pregnancy. I delivered my baby. I was fine the first few months. I wrote that article saying, all's well, we did this thing. I'm glad about the decision I made. Then, when I stopped breastfeeding and went back to work when my daughter was 6 months, was plunged into a horrific kind of paranoid depression. And
you were still on the lowest possible dose at this point.
Yes.
Okay.
And I truly did not know what was happening to me. Like, for me, this is the strangest part of my whole journey, because as someone who had really been thoughtful about my mental health, always had doctors that I felt, were looking out for me, had a very supportive family system. Within a month, I couldn't sleep all night. I have journal entries of I don't know what's going on. I can't go to sleep. I was up for 24 hours on end. I lost 10 pounds, which I don't have I'm not carrying a lot of extra weight, 10 pounds on me. Right. The people in my life were worried about me, and I couldn't tell you what I was worried about. I wasn't worried. Some people say, oh, I was worried about being a good mom, or I was worried about how do I take care of the baby? Is she okay? I don't even know what I was worried about.
It's just generalized.
My body was having an ongoing panic attack.
Oh, that's awful.
And my family said to me, my mom, my sister, my new daughter's nanny were like, we're really worried about you, and we think you need to talk to your doctor about this. And my response, even as somebody very educated about my own mental health, my response was, I'm fine. It's just a transition. The year after having a baby is hard. I'm going back to work. That's really overwhelming. I just have to get through it. I just have to get through it. And I should have enough support and resources and information, and I just I have to figure this out. And they kept saying to me, we don't think this is normal. You are not yourself. There is something wrong. And it took me so much more intervention than I thought it would to get back to the doctor and say, I think something might be wrong. I think maybe I need to. And my doctor, who had been my doctor, I don't even know, had I not been seeing, I don't even know how we didn't broach this sooner, but she just said, yeah, that makes total sense. You need to go up on your Zoloft. You're in a very hormonally vulnerable place. Chemically, you're on the edge, and you should not be trying to tough this out. So I went back up on my Zoloft slowly, not that slowly, but it fixed it. It just pulled me out of that rut where I couldn't see what was true and false. I just had a pit in my stomach every single day. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep.
Oh my gosh.
So it got me out of that. And of course, it was still hard. It was still a transition. I was still juggling things, but I wasn't held down by that anchor.
Yeah.
And so that is what set me up for then preparing 2 years later for my second pregnancy.
Okay, wait. Before we move into your second pregnancy, I'm curious, given that you were so in tune with your mental health and you had been taking care of yourself, you've got this great support system, all these resources, what do you think it was that made you resistant to go back to the doctor to start titrating back up? Why did it take so much intervention by friends and family to get to that point, do you think?
I wasn't even resistant to it. It was I couldn't see it. And I didn't think there would be a problem with going back to the doctor. I just didn't think I was supposed to need to do that. And I think that's the tricky thing about mental health is it can be very hard to know how to ask for help or when to ask for help or what help you need because you're not seeing things clearly. You're not yourself. You're not thinking the way you would normally think. And so, I think that was a big wake-up call for me as someone who had felt very steady and rational and in control for a number of years that, by the way, pregnancy is a massive intervention into your neurological state, into the chemical balance that you have, into your lifestyle and the support systems.
Sure.
And so everything I thought I knew about how to take care of myself wasn't enough in that moment.
Right.
But I just didn't know. You don't know that until you're there, or you don't know that unless someone tells you.
Yeah.
This may be too much for you to handle on your own based on your existing strategies, and you may need extra help.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that I had people that said to me, you need to go back, because I didn't have any stigma or issue with it.
Yeah.
I just was like, no, this is supposed to be hard. I'm supposed to, be overwhelmed and stressed and tired and, emotional.
I think it really resonates with me when you said you couldn't see it, because after Josh and I lost our baby, I had crushing depression, but it was acute. It's not something I've struggled with for a long time. It was, a couple month period, and I couldn't see it. And I remember my mom saying something very similar. She's like, I think you need help. For me, it was in the form of therapy. And I remember when it started to click and you said like the world came into focus. I used to say it felt like I'd been living in black and white and suddenly the world had color again. And my mom said, I don't think you could see it because you can't see the picture when you're inside the frame. And
Exactly.
it makes so much sense when you're in the thick of it. It's so crushing and crippling. You can't see it.
You can't. I always say like you can't read the instructions on the label if you're inside the jar.
Yeah.
On
Yeah.
how to get out. So
many good metaphors.
I do think that's another reason why like it can't be up to us as the pregnant person or as the person on whichever mental health, preparing for a family journey. Like you do need a support system because you don't have the perspective necessarily and you're being thrown into a delirious state.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so how was your second pregnancy different?
So my second pregnancy, my doctor, thank God I have this, psychiatrist who's at the Motherhood Center, which is a psychiatry practice that focuses on women and building families.
Is that nationwide or just here in New York?
It's just here, but they have a lot of like remote support services. And to be honest, I don't know if it's maybe now they're building it out. But so I had a great doctor who had helped me get out of that first depression. And she just said to me categorically, we don't have enough research on what SSRIs do to the babies. There's no to the baby that you might carry. There's no reason to believe that would be problematic. But we know that it's problematic if a mother is depressed, overwhelmed, high anxiety.
Yep.
Like our number one priority is to ensure that the mother is well. And so if we know this is going to keep you well, there's absolutely no reason why we should be going down on this. There were other things that she said, yes, don't do this, don't do, But I approached my second pregnancy completely differently. I looked at all the things. Another example is, we're told not to eat sushi or raw fish. I happened to get pregnant at the same time as a colleague of mine who was Japanese. And I said, I just missed sushi the first time. I said, I miss sushi. And he said, why aren't you eating sushi? And I said, well, you're not supposed to eat raw fish when you're pregnant. And he go, what do you think people in Japan eat? And I was like, oh my God. Right. And it turns out they don't want you to eat sushi because they don't want you to get food poisoning.
Oh.
Because they don't want you to be throwing up. I had terrible morning sickness. I was already sick all the time.
Wait.
I had no – yes, I know. What? That doesn't make any sense. So there is a mercury. You don't want to eat you don't want to eat high mercury foods. That holds, and that I didn't do. But you can have a, salmon tartare or whatever. You just don't want to get food poisoning, which, by the way, you can get from eating a salad.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
And I also was like, what would you do if I got food poisoning? What is anybody doing about my morning sickness? I was so sick I couldn't get out of bed. I was throwing up. I was nauseous. No one seemed to have a plan for that. They weren't particularly nervous about that. They were like, good luck.
Yeah.
Get 3 or 3 months.
Get a ginger chew.
Yeah.
Literally, they were like, have you tried the
Yeah.
bracelet that you wear that like woos
Right.
your magnet thing?
Acupuncture.
No. Yeah. So in any case, I approached
Although I do love acupuncture.
I had kind of a healthy skepticism for what common advice was. I am somebody who very much believes in science. I listen to doctors. I embrace medical intervention, but I just think this is a particular area where we are led to believe things are true. But you don't even have to ask twice to realize it's just sort of like people guessing because they don't know. The doctors will very quickly tell you there's no medical evidence for that. This is what we tend to say. So I went into my second pregnancy much more careful about my own mental health, really setting up the program. And also I stayed on my antidepressants. I had gone up on my Zoloft to the max dose and the dose that I needed, and I stayed on it. And that pregnancy was completely different. And when I tell you, this is completely anecdotal, so nobody should take this as any sort of, medical outcome. But that baby is the happiest baby.
No.
So easy. Slept through the night. No issue. Eats well. Laughs.
No.
Just like a little angel. My first has a lot
Of stuff.
Right?
Yeah.
And she's absolutely incredible. But, she came out like everyone was like, oh, okay, whoa, we know how she's feeling. We know what she's thinking. We know what she wants. And she has been like a force to contend with from day one. The other one, when I had a baby where I stayed on my antidepressants the whole pregnancy, that one was like acquiring a warm potato. Like the other one came in and blew up my world. And this one, so I'm not here to say that all children are better off if you take antidepressants during your pregnancy. I'm here to say that my experience has been it has not had a detrimental effect in any way. And if you wanted to go by anecdotal, perhaps because I was better, I was sleeping better, I was, and I was more stable throughout. I just had a much better, it's really my post-pregnancy that was so markedly better because I was really, I stayed off my antidepressants thinking I'm breastfeeding, I can't be transferring anything to blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And I just let all of that go and said, I need to focus on me being well. I'm going to do the best I can within what's recommended, but I'm not going to suffer on account of keeping a schedule or keeping to something that there's no evidence to say is the right thing to do.
Right. It's interesting because I'm about to start another IVF cycle with CCRM here in New York. And, you ask them like, okay, what should I be doing? What should I not be doing? And for me, like exercise is a way that I really deal with like stress and anxiety. And I know you're not supposed to do too much, but they said to me, they were like, we want you to be happy because the best thing that you can do for your egg quality and for this whole cycle is to not be stressed and to be happy. So like within reason, within, guidelines, I can do what's recommended. And I think that, I hear that from every single doctor that the best thing you can do for all of these cycles, for anything, whether you're doing IVF or natural, is to take care of yourself, whatever that looks like.
Exercise, like, of course you should exercise. But yes, I'm glad that, fertility doctors are sharing that guidance with you. But exercise is another great one where like I heard I hate to exercise. So you and I do not have the same.
I'm with you.
I understand.
I was like, do you need me to lie in bed? And they were like, no, not really. And I was like, are you sure? I'm going to tell my husband you need me to lie in bed.
Like no sex, no exercise.
Yeah,
nothing.
I was like, I actually can't. I can't. And by the way, the doctors don't think I should hang out with your friends for a while either. But no, exercise is another great one. People's bodies need different things. Another thing I learned about this journey and just in my journey in general with mental health is like neurodiversity is real. People need different things. People's brains work differently. People have different setups. They're dealing with different things. And it's true for your bodies, where exercise may really not agree with someone in a pregnancy or when they're preparing for IVF. That may be exactly the thing that sets you up for feeling success, feeling healthy, feeling your best, and then having success in that process. So the problem is, and I'll be the first to say, like, I think we have not funded enough research on women's bodies, women's health. I will also say I will give everyone the credit of saying they're afraid. That feels like the highest stakes medical research to conduct is on pregnant women, on fetuses, on newborns. So they're extra cautious in a way that I appreciate.
Right.
But we got to solve that problem.
Yeah, agreed.
Harvard is doing a research study now on Zoloft taken during pregnancy.
Really?
FYI. Yes, they're in the middle of doing that. So I'm excited to read about it. Selby, did anyone react poorly to your decision to stay on antidepressants? Like within your close family? I'm not talking about like commenters on the article or anything like that.
Nobody, by the way, like only people were happy to read that article. I also think the internet was a little bit different 4 years ago. Unfortunately for everybody, but I didn't think there weren't so many haters like coming. I think, my husband is not somebody who has struggled with mental health or ever taken any sort of medication. And so I think he's the person who, my family that I grew up with, they had seen me, they had seen how it had impacted me. So they had already sort of been on the journey. My husband, I think, was a little bit more curious, I would say. I also, appreciate my husband because I think he very much felt like, okay, doesn't need to ask me permission to do anything. This is in so many ways her journey of her body and how this works. And so I wouldn't say that I've ever felt judgment or, censorship from him or anything like that. But I would say he was the person for whom this was new and he probably had the most questions around, is this going to be okay? But to be honest, I had those conversations with my doctor. So I would sort of let him know, which I think is the appropriate thing. And God bless that he also thinks that's the appropriate thing, because I think that's how it is. It's like myself and my doctor were the ones that were best organized to make that decision.
Yeah.
I had the only person who said to me, wow, that was really brave. I can't believe you shared that. And are you sure you want to be sharing publicly that you're on antidepressants? Was my therapist, not my psychiatrist. And my therapist of like so many years, who I love. Like, I love this woman. She has so impacted my life in so many ways. Mm-hmm. And she's a little more old school, but I like that about her. You know, she's when I complain about a lot of things, she's like, you'll get over it. Get on with it. Yeah, like we don't need to make it's not that deep, which I like in a therapist. I can make things very deep. I think it's kind of like millennial into Gen Z, into like everything is a thing. And she's like, get over it. In a couple of years, it'll be fine.
I love her.
So I love her, but she was the only person who said to me, wow, that was really brave. Are you sure you want to share that you were on antidepressants?
See,
she said, I don't know if I would have done that.
There's such a stigma still. And it boggles my mind. I mean, people are doing mushrooms like every day. I'm not really, I'm like, it's hard to go to a party now without everyone being whacked out of mushrooms. We could talk about that and like everyone's walking around just totally messed up. But we can't talk about being on antidepressants? Are you kidding me?
No, I'm like, you're all self-medicating.
Right.
Over
With
half
something.
the country is on antidepressants. Like, big deal.
Have you seen it change at all since because I mean, you started when you were 15, so.
Yes. And I think it's changed a lot. And I think the fact that I felt fine to share that really was a testament to, I didn't think I was going to get a major backlash or this was going to kind of blow anyone's minds or crumble anyone's worlds. I think, unfortunately, and I was very surprised that my therapist, but I sort of thought, okay, my therapist, again, is a little bit more old school. She's from a slightly different moment in time. Unfortunately, I think everything is going a little bit backwards.
Yeah.
I have always been a very open book, happy to share my journeys around anything, mental health, my pregnancy journey, my pregnancy loss journey, my abortion, like any of those things. I am like, this is so common. This is no negative reflection on me. This is, external facts that I am actually very proud to have dealt with, to have approached. And if I have any solution or any experience, strength, and hope that I can share with other people that can help, why would I be, feel shame about that?
Right.
That being said, I feel a markedly different environment just even in the last year around those things. I feel like it might be safer to keep some things to myself. I think people are maybe in slightly more danger now than they were because of the political environment in the United States specifically, to be a little less abstract. And I think that's unfortunate. I hope that we can find a way to combat that, because I would not be where I am if I hadn't heard other people share stories of, it's their mental health journeys, their pregnancy journeys, their medical journeys in any way.
Yeah, it's so helpful. Wait, so I didn't know you had an abortion.
Oh, yeah, I had an abortion. By the you didn't need to know that.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. No, I accidentally got pregnant when I was 23 years old. So it was a very, again, for me, it was a very cut and dry thing. I was very lucky to be in New York City. I had a great gynecologist who I trusted, who I could immediately call up and go, oh my God, this thing happened. She said, okay, here's what you need to do. It was not a question for me if I wanted to keep the child. I mean, I was just graduating from college. I was with a boyfriend who I was pretty sure I wasn't going to end up with. I was not ready to have a baby. I wasn't earning any money. Like, I could not have taken care of this child. So, and I felt very much like a kid who had to go figure out how I was going to be in the world before I built a family. In any case, it was like, I don't want to say it was a non-event, but it was, I just didn't have shame or fear around it. If I didn't have a doctor I trusted, I probably would have. And as I got older and I saw conversations picking up around this being such a sensitive thing, I thought, well, it is a sensitive thing because it's a medical thing that happens to your body and an emotional thing that happens to your body, not because it's a political issue for anybody else.
Yeah.
And so it was clear to me that if I shared that, openly, that could only be positive in the sense that it is so common. Women do this so often. They do it for so many reasons. I do not feel we should have shame around it. But I actually think it's getting harder, unfortunately, to talk about those things openly.
I think you're right. And thank you for sharing that, first of all. And, whether we're talking about abortion, IVF, mental health, whatever it is, this sort of resurfacing of stigmatization that you're talking about seeing, I think the way that we do combat that is by continuing to talk about it and normalizing it for people and helping people who have their own stories feel okay talking about it. I mean, Selby, you and I talk about this all the time, but just opening the door for people to share their own stories and making it normal. And just normalizing these things that are just regular parts of daily life.
Add now, and I've never publicly shared this, I had an abortion also. I lost my virginity to my soon-to-be ex-husband. And I was 27, believe it or not, when I lost my virginity. This must have been, I'm not kidding, it must have been the third time I had sex in my life. And I got pregnant. And
my God.
I was shocked, and we were newly dating, and I was like, but for a moment, I was 27. I was at an age where I felt like I wanted to start a family, but it was certainly not the right time. We had just started dating, and I was like, I don't want this to be the reason that we stay together, if we do stay together. And so I had an abortion, but it was like, it wasn't so easy for me to decide. It really wasn't. Because I really wanted to be a mom, but I also knew I couldn't carry. It would be very high risk. Right. So I had an abortion when I was 27, probably the third time I had sex.
Thank you for sharing
Thanks
that.
for telling us.
Yeah, but I also
and
think
I'm proud of you for telling.
For doing it.
Yeah,
and also for sharing. Yeah. Well, I think this goes to show I shared the age I was in part because it wasn't as hard for me for exactly that reason. I know so many I think a lot of women have more shame, regret, feel the stigma around if they are of child, of the age where they might want to start a family. But it goes to show like it is already such a complicated, personal, high stakes decision to be making that like the last thing you need is a lot of additional external factors when you're already making a decision that is so personal, so important, and has so much bearing on your life and the course that your life is going to take, as well as the people immediately around you. So I think it's really important to talk about people who have kids and get an abortion because they say, I may want kids in the future, but right now is not the time. I need to be able to take care of these kids, or I'm not where I need to be in my relationship. And this child is not going to live in a way that is going to, be safe for them or safe for those of us in our family. So like, I think to the point of everybody needs to be allowed to have an abortion whenever they want to. And for whatever reason,
Yeah.
1,000%.
Totally agree.
Yeah, I mean, all three of us. I know we all do.
Yeah. Well, and people want to talk about whether or not it's okay to have an abortion for the sake of the unborn baby, right? But then they don't talk about what happens if that baby's born into a family that can't take care of it. Nobody seems to care then, And so it just, to your point, Selby, it's such a highly personal decision that it should be yours and yours alone.
I don't know. I think I just don't know anyone who's ever made the decision to get an abortion and they were flippant about it.
Right.
And by the way, if they were flippant about it, maybe it's for the best.
That's very telling too.
Yep.
Okay, so you have your second child about a year ago.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming you take the same maternity leave, you're feeling great, you stayed on your medication, same dosage. And how does that look? Like, how do you segue into being at home, 2 kids, now going back into the workforce? Was it difficult? Were you excited? Were you like, bye guys, see you later? Like, can't wait to get out of this house, get me out.
It's like everything everywhere all at once. I think I'm obsessed with being a mom. I am so obsessed with my kids. I am so obsessed with my kids. Like, I literally only want to hang out with my kids. But, me and all my friends talk about, like, I only want to hang out with my kids. And then the minute you're in the house alone with them, you're like, get me out of here.
Like, when is it 7?
Like, someone save me. Yeah. And like, I think that's the beautiful thing. I think it's the beautiful thing about being a woman is, like, there's just so much contradiction and duality and, like, layers to all of it. But that's what life is. I mean, I've had plenty of, things I've struggled with in my life or worked on in my life. And, like, what I've come to learn is just any challenge is an opportunity. I will not say anything here that you all haven't heard and women haven't heard a million times, which is, like, it's impossible to feel like you're doing everything right all the time. It's impossible to feel rested and also self-fulfilled and also, like, you're showing up for your family. And, I happen to be – I'm going back to work now for the second time. I actually left my job. So I had an amazing maternity leave. I will always credit Bumble, the place where I worked, with, like, a proper maternity leave policy. I think one of the big frontiers that we all have to grapple with, and I say this as someone who was in the C-suite at Bumble and understands, and now I work at a very small company, and it's like it is really hard to lose high-performing people for 6 months.
Yeah.
I don't actually know how you do that. I think there is not going to be gender equality. There's not going to be shared responsibility in the home. There's not going to be equal pay until we have parental leave that is across all genders. And I am very passionate about paternity leave. I have never on the ground seen a situation where I know how that's feasible. So I don't know. They've, like, figured it out in Norway.
Right.
Everybody takes a year off. And, I don't know if we can do that in this country. So I'm not saying I have all the answers, but I think we have to start talking about paternity leave because that is the only way that we can actually create, like, a shared understanding of what the daily life is on the ground with children. This is all to say I had a great maternity leave. I went back to work. This second time, I had been at the company for a number of years. I loved it, but it was time.
This is Bumble.
Yeah. So I had done what I felt like I wanted to do there. The leadership had changed, and I was ready to actually go pursue something that was very personal and important to me, which is working at this company in venture to support really women founders, healthcare breakthroughs that have a mission to do good in the world. And, whether that's cure disease, make the world safer, reduce pollution, combat climate change, responsible AI. I just sort of felt like I wanted to be more on the ground. In any case, I took a few months because I thought my kids are young. And when else am I going to be home with them all day? And my husband was very supportive of that, which has been great. I mean, he's happy. He's busy working too. So we both always could use more help at home. He was like, great, if you want to do that. So now I'm going back to work again for, like, the third time with 2 kids in a funny way. And it's, it's just brutal. But it's like, it's just one day at a time.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky I had a mother who – I can't imagine how she got through every day. So, and she was a single mom and she was working all the time and she didn't have money and whatever. So I'm sort of like, okay, if she can do – all these women have done it. That's what I always think about, like, don't exercise, don't eat sushi, don't take this, stay clean when you're pregnant. I'm like, women have been, like, giving birth in the dust after running away from wildebeest for 9 months. Like, that. I'm like, that we got to be able to do this.
Right.
So I think, like, lowering the expectations. I think that thing of, I don't know. I'm happy. I think there's a thing going around now that's like the good enough mom.
Yep.
Oh, I love that.
So I'm doing I'm a Virgo. I can get very hypey about, like, everything has to go the way it's going to go.
I am too, and I'm terrible at delegating. So
Yeah,
it doesn't even matter if you have a great nanny, because I need to make every meal and like cut it into shapes. And if I'm
Oh my
hosting
gosh.
play dates, like everything needs to be aesthetically pleasing. And it's a whole,
gosh.
it really is exhausting.
I like
It's
when-
exhausting.
Everything is themed. Everything
Oh my
is,
gosh.
yeah.
I like when my sister refers to herself as the world's most okayest mom.
Oh, that's cute.
And she's an amazing mom.
I need to
Okay,
be more like her.
Selby, I want to be mindful of your time, but I want you to keep your boss girl hat on for a minute, because from your time as a C-level executive, now working with female founders and female-focused companies, I have learned, not through my own personal experience, unfortunately, but I have learned that there are companies that provide a lot of really great fertility benefits. So I'm curious, from your boss perspective, what do you think companies and employers should be providing their employees? And then from your patient perspective, what do you think employees should be asking of their employers as far as benefits?
So again, I have to give a shout out to Bumble. Like it is incredible to have a company run by a woman, and a big enough company where there are many employees. We had the best, and the truth is, like, the landscape was evolving in real time of what was available, what people thought was appropriate. We were headquartered in Texas, and so we really had to grapple with what are we offering our employees by way of support as abortion restrictions really started to dive in hard. But I was lucky to work at a company where that was top of mind for everybody. How do we take care of the women that are working in the office in a place where they may have a medical emergency that will look very different than what they thought it would look like, or what it might have looked like 5-10 years ago? So we were thinking about all of that in a way that I think, honestly, most companies are not.
For sure.
And, everything from how's your wellness, take a long maternity leave. We're not going to bother you on maternity leave. I would be reaching out like, what's going on at work? And they'd be like, no, you can't talk to us.
That's awesome.
Which I think is not the case now. One thing I will say, so we were very early in trying to offer IVF services, partnering with companies. There are great companies that give IVF or just fertility benefits. So one of them, I think we had a partnership with Maven when I was at Bumble, which was great. And by the way, they contracted fully third party so that nobody at Bumble knows what's going on. They don't know when, that you're going to use it. You get a $10,000 stipend to apply in any way that you want, which includes surrogacy, adoption, abortion, fertility treatments. What I will say is that for as proactive as Bumble was and trying to support us with every service available, I found it like fully impossible to navigate the actual, the online portal and getting access to the benefit. And I didn't have this number and this document. Like, I don't think I ever accessed that benefit because I found it too challenging and overwhelming system-wise. And so, what I will say is, like, there is a role for employers to ensure that they're doing everything they can. But it's still hard. Yeah. Even if your employer does everything they can, it's a lot of work.
It is.
It's like a mental load. Yeah, it's new stuff. I mean, I'm currently caring for my father who's having his own challenge, and it's similar. It's we all deal with it, but it's a little bit like pregnancy or not wanting to have a pregnancy. We're all dealing with this. Like, why is it not easier? Right. But presumably that's where you guys come in, and you're going to solve it all for everyone. I think just understanding what does your parental leave benefit look like? What is your, I mean, everybody has a different set of circumstances with their employer. I mean, some people don't get days off without getting paid. Right. While getting paid. And that's its own challenge. I mean, so I think really understanding, what are your policies? What do you offer? But also knowing that doesn't mean all those things just fall into place the minute that you're ready to use them. Right.
You need to implement.
Yeah.
You might have to do more follow-up. Yeah.
Well, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for coming.
Well, you guys are amazing. I am so excited to get to know you more and hear more about your journey.
Thank you.
And, Amanda, I have to thank you because it is like nobody asks to have these stories to tell. And it is a very strange thing to feel like something is happening and you can't understand why the world isn't meeting you in that moment.
Yeah.
And so thank you for everything that you continue to do, which is like not fun and not for the glory and not for the glam. But I watch you from afar. And I just feel like I can do it because, I can tell my story on a in a very different way because I see you get up on stages and share things that no one else can say. So,
well, we're all sharing our stories in one way or another, and it's really important that we do. So thank you for sharing your story with us today, Selby.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.